back to another episode of Clout 941, the only live television show on Sarasota Politics, and I'm the host, Ron Filipkowski. This is our 9th show. Many of you have gone onto YouTube.com and looked up some of our old episodes. We put them up there about 4 or 5 days ago, and we've gotten a lot of hits on YouTube about the show. We've gotten quite a lot of hits on it, and oh, sorry, my microphone slid down. And quite a lot of hits on the show. Past episodes, people are able to go on there and see old interviews of guests and lots of things on there, and we've gotten quite a lot of interest and a lot of emails over them. So I encourage you to go on YouTube and check out some of our past episodes. Tonight's guest is going to be Matt Walsh, who's the publisher of The Observer, and we have a lot of very good questions to ask him, interesting things, not just about politics, but about the newspaper business in general and the community. We also, once again, have our new sponsor of our show, 1-800-ASK Gary, our commercial tonight featuring the star of the 1-800-ASK Gary empire, Roz, in the commercials. And we're going to get some different commercials to show throughout the coming months from 1-800-ASK Gary. Now, my commentary tonight is on baseball in Sarasota. This has been a hot topic for a long time as to whether we're going to continue to have spring training. As you know, a lot of the teams in the Grapefruit League have left the state of Florida and moved to Arizona, and the Orioles right now are in negotiations as to where they're going to move because their lease is up. And we've just gone through the saga with the Red Sox where we were not able to get the Red Sox, and I tend to agree with Commissioner Joe Barbetta on this. The Red Sox and the Orioles are apples and oranges. You simply cannot treat them the same. He was probably the #1 advocate of having the Red Sox come to Sarasota, but he is very lukewarm about the Orioles deal, and I agree. All you have to do is compare the TV ratings of the two franchises. In other words, when a Red Sox spring training game would be televised back up in New England by the New England Sports Network, their ratings for spring training games are #1 of all the major league teams in America. So our community, our town would get obviously a lot of publicity. The ratings for the Orioles are about 10% of the ratings for the Red Sox. The Red Sox are #1 in Major League Baseball. The Orioles are number 29 out of 32 teams. So just right there, the ratings are different. The economic impact is different. And I'll tell you, I come to it from an entirely different perspective when I evaluate the baseball situation. This area, Sarasota County, has always been a mecca of youth baseball. Baseball has always been the #1 sport in Sarasota County, and our high school programs are stacked. Almost all the starters get college scholarships. Many get drafted into the pros. Sarasota High is always a national powerhouse in baseball. And the fact of the matter is the youth facilities in Sarasota County for baseball are dilapidated. They're very poor. They're run down. Sarasota County does not put the money into new facilities or building to maintain the facilities well. The Manatee County baseball parks for youth are much better than Sarasota County. What we need to do is we need to upgrade our youth facilities. And in any kind of Red Sox deal, Orioles deal, Reds deal, I always look for that. And if that's not part of the package, I cannot support it. I just came from Winter Haven, where the Cleveland Indians recently pulled out, and I coached in a youth baseball tournament there this past weekend, and that's what the city of Winter Haven has done. The Indians are gone, and they decided to take their complex and their stadium and host youth baseball tournaments and teams from all over the state. They had 30 teams in there this weekend. They had 36 teams in there last weekend. That's families, that's grandparents, that's kids filling up hotels, and you can do this year-round in Florida. Youth baseball is the alternative, and it is where it's at. In our area, Southwest Florida, the youth baseball tournaments are all hosted primarily in Manatee County. Our facilities have the potential to be better. We have the potential to bring in more youth tournaments here, and that's the direction we need to go if we can't get an affordable Major League Baseball team. That's the area that we need to go. Okay, so our guest tonight, that's my commentary for the week, a little bit about baseball. Our guest tonight is Matt Walsh, publisher of The Observer. Thank you for coming on the show, Matt.
Happy to do it.
Why don't you tell us about the history of The Observer, how it got started?
Actually, it was started by a couple on Longboat Key, Ralph and Claire Hunter, who still live there. They started the Longboat Observer in 1978. After 16 years of publishing the Longboat Observer, they thought it was a good time to retire. Ralph was turning 75 years old, and they had had their fill and share of putting out this little weekly newspaper, And so my wife and I and my in-laws came along. There's a long story behind that. And bought the Longboat Observer from Ralph and Claire in 1995. And then we've been publishing that since then and have grown it to include a few other observers and a business weekly called the Gulf Coast Business Review.
So did it start out as just the Longboat Observer?
That's what it was.
And then you grew it into what it is now?
Yes, correct.
And what are the different ones? I know you have the Sarasota Observer.
We have the Sarasota.
Lakewood Ranch?
It's the East County Observer.
Okay.
Yeah, we started that in 1998. And we started the Sarasota Observer in 2004.
And what were you doing before you took over the Observer?
I was, right before the Observers, I was the Southeast Bureau Manager for Forbes magazine. And then before that, I was editor of Florida Trend magazine, which is based in St. Petersburg, for about 7 years.
So you had a background in the business then?
In business, right, in business journalism. And then I had spent 6 years at the Miami Herald, about 4 of those years on the business desk. Yeah.
Does the Observer have any particular sort of mission, reason for existence, you know, kind of a mission statement for your paper?
Yeah, I think you could say that the little tagline that we use on the front page of the paper is pretty close to that. And it says, you, your neighbors, your neighborhood. We try to focus on what a lot of people in the industry might call hyper-local news. I call it micro news. It's about your neighbors, your neighborhood, and we have a saying in our company in the Observers that no news is too small for the Observers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why you keep it sort of broken up into East County and
That's right.
Longboat Key. And
That's right.
okay.
You'll find that what we're doing is not really rocket science, but you'll find this pretty common throughout metro areas in the country. There's typically a dominant, excuse me, a dominant daily newspaper, and then once you get in a circle around the paper, I mean around the metro area, there are smaller community weeklies serving these little markets. People like to know what's happening in their backyard, who's going to be having their street repaved, you know, what streets are the sewers going to be repaired on, what's happening in terms of local crime in your neighborhood. So that's where we focus on that little niche by neighborhood.
Every guest that comes on, we have a few questions that we ask to try to find out a little bit about them. I wanted to ask you about a famous person in history that may be your hero. If you could sit down and have lunch with somebody, who would it be? Historical figure.
Whoa, that's a tough one. I can't think of anybody right off the top of my head. In sports, I would love to sit down with Stan Musial and talk baseball with him. And
you're a Cardinal fan?
I'm a Cardinal fan. Grew up in St. Louis, so I'm a big Cardinal fan. I would love to sit and chat with Bob Gibson about the old days.
How about a U.S. president?
A U.S. president. You'd have to say that, like many people, I would say that Ronald Reagan is one of my favorites. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your favorite restaurant in town?
Favorite restaurant in town? Well, I can't answer that because we have a lot of restaurants who are advertising customers, and I like them all the same.
You know, I thought that every political candidate would duck that question, and everyone answered it.
Is that right?
Surprised, but you're the first.
I'm going to have to duck
that.
that. We've got a lot of great restaurants.
You should run for office, Matt.
Absolutely. I know how to play that game.
How about people that may be acquainted with you or know you, but maybe aren't real close to you? What would be a hobby that you may have, some interest that you have that might surprise them?
My wife laughs at this, but I love to read boring economic books. I'm fascinated by Austrian economics, and so I spend a lot of time reading books written by classic Austrian economists.
You're a free marketer.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. How about what kind of music do you like? Your favorite?
Country western.
Country what? You have a favorite band or singer?
Jason Aldean.
Okay.
You ever heard of him?
No, absolutely not.
You ought to listen to him. He rocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you about this. I picked up the newspaper today. You know what? Let's save this for after the break, okay? I want to ask you about what's on the front page of the paper. I'm going to ask Matt Walsh, a publisher observer, what's on the front page of the Herald Tribune today when we get back.